years owning a marketing agency, and somewhere along the way, after I wrote my first book in 2011, I decided to try and figure out the story of AI and its potential application to all of us as marketers. So John mentioned there is a book. So the book actually comes out in 3 weeks. June 28th is the release date for the book, but it looks like we have some in the back of the room, and John probably has a creative way to figure out who's going to get the first copies ever distributed of the book. So this is actually a quote from the introduction to the book. It says, "We are in a rare position to create change, to reinvent what it means to be a marketer. You don't have to become a machine learning engineer or data scientist to take advantage of what AI enables. You simply have to understand what is possible with smarter technologies and apply them to your business and your career." That is the fundamental thing that I want you to take away from today, is that AI is actually an extremely approachable thing. It is not abstract. You use it dozens of times every day in your consumer life. So this morning, you've probably used AI a dozen times already. If you spoke to Siri or Alexa, if you used Google Maps to get here. So your life is infused with artificial intelligence. It creates convenience and personalization in the apps you use and the technology you use. That's what's going to happen in the business world, in marketing and advertising, but we're not there yet. It's very early, actually. So when you look at this, all these different ways, so when Netflix recommends a show or a movie, Spotify learns the music you like, LinkedIn curates your feed, TikTok's For You page. If you have a Tesla or have been in a Tesla, the way it does autonomous driving, or its form of it, it's very early, raw form of autonomous driving, it's using neural networks. It's using some of the things that Rich was talking about today. These are all ways that you use it. And you don't ever get routed around on Google Maps an accident and think, thank God for machine learning. But you don't get routed around that accident without machine learning. So these apps, these technologies are not possible without artificial intelligence. And so there will come a day in the not too distant future where every piece of software you use is infused with artificial intelligence. But again, we're not there today. Now, that previous slide, the vast majority of those applications, of those technologies, were created in the last 10 years. There's been immense leaps forward in AI in the last 3 years in particular. We'll talk about some of those in a moment. But the rate of change, the rate of advancement of artificial intelligence technology is exponential. And so the level of innovation we have seen over a 10-year period is going to start to happen in 3 years to 5 years. And then it's going to start to happen every quarter. And then it's going to start to happen every month. If you go, like if you want to see this at work, go into your iPhone and take a picture of, there aren't many plants in New York, but take a picture of a plant or a flower. Then go into your iPhone, look at the photo, and in the bottom there's a little eye with some stars on it. It means it's recognizing what plant or flower that is. That was really hard to do, but it uses computer vision to do it. You can search for any object within a photo and it can do it. Soon, you'll be able to search for any object within a video, and any piece of video you have on your phone. Apple may have released this already, but you're able to recognize all these things within all this media, and it opens up the possibilities of what we can do as marketers and as business people. The thing that people always want to do is assign a value to this. Like, okay, how much is AI going to change the world? So all the big guys have tried to do this. McKinsey, Deloitte, PwC, everyone's tried to assign a value to the impact AI will have. The best study I have seen, this is actually from 2018, but it's still the best because it went the deepest, in my opinion. They looked at 9 business functions, including finance, HR, operations, strategy. The number one by far in impact was actually marketing and sales. And when you look at this chart, it gives you a sense. So there's 7 categories they broke it into. Now, this doesn't even delve into creativity, which is a whole other area we'll talk about. But you can start to get at a very high level a sense of the impact. Now, it's in the trillions. Now, they all disagree on how many trillions, but they agree there's a T involved, a T being trillions. So if you look at like pricing and promotion, and you think about like airlines is a great example. They've been using this stuff for 7-10 years in the airline industry. The ability to dynamically price based on behavioral signals to that right price at the right time to the right consumer, that's unlocking value. So when we look at this value creation, what you're talking about is unlocking value that is sitting there. So if you can create the optimal price point for your product or service at any given time, you can unlock value. If I can get, so like I'm running a conference in a couple weeks, couple months. if I can get people to buy a ticket for 200 off instead of 400 off, if I know that they'll buy the 200 and I don't have to give away the 400, the delta on that can make a huge difference if it's a multi-thousand person conference. But how in the world, as a human, am I supposed to optimally figure out pricing? There's no way. Should the email subject line say 20% off or $200 off? I have no idea. But the AI does, because it can take all this data in. And so you start to look at all these different things: churn reduction, budget allocation, which was actually my original foray into AI, was to solve strategy. I was running an agency. It's like, okay, people come to me and they want 500 B2B leads next quarter. How? When I graduated from Ohio University in 2000, there was like 5 ways to spend your money. By 2011, there was 5,000. So how do I figure out the way to get 500 leads for $50,000 across 5,000 channels? You couldn't. And so I actually started exploring AI and said, can AI do this? So when you drill in and start making it really tangible, my working theory is that within 3 to 5 years, at least 80% of the tactical things we do every day as marketers will have AI infused to it in some capacity. It's not going to replace you, it's not going to take your job, but it's going to intelligently automate a piece of that role. Now, people often ask me, am I going to be out of a job? And I say, well, if your job is to A/B test landing pages all day, 8 hours a day, that's all you do, yes, you are out of a job. You're probably out of a job last year, but like, it's just tactical things. AI is taught to do very narrow, specific tasks. So we've asked the market. We did a study with Drift, and actually we're releasing the new findings from the 2022 report on June 30th, but this is from last year's survey. And we said, how would you classify your understanding of AI terminology and capabilities? 50% said beginner, 37% said intermediate. My belief is that, and you could actually apply this at the CMO level. I think beginner might be higher at the CMO level in some cases. If you said, can you walk into the CEO's office right now, in one sentence explain what AI is, and make a business case for why you should be investing in smarter tech? Could you do that? My guess is 98% can't do it. Like, we are so early, and I say that as a good thing, because if you can comprehend this stuff, and you can get this stuff in 30 minutes, you don't have to go to school to get this stuff. If you can understand at a fundamental level what AI is and what it does, you are so far ahead of the industry. I'm talking with the leading universities in the world right now who are trying to figure out how to build AI into their business curriculum and experiences. So we have students coming out of college, the best universities, who have no idea what this stuff is. And then we asked, which do you consider barriers to adoption? Now, there's obvious ones in here: lack of talent, lack of strategy, but the thing that's sort of shocking to me, this was the highest delta of any question we asked out of 14 questions. 70% said lack of education and training. So just further valid, like, people don't even know where to go to learn this stuff, which, considering I run an institute that teaches this stuff, is a good finding, but it was not a finding I actually expected to see. So then when you zoom out and you say, okay, this all makes sense, I guess, like it's going to be important, trillions of dollars, it sounds really important. What I will tell you is, and this is the first chapter of the book, starts with this retroactive look back over the last 2 decades. What I'll tell you is Google, Amazon, Microsoft, NVIDIA, Salesforce, Adobe, Baidu, DeepMind within Google, there are about 10 companies, or IBM, we just had somebody from IBM, they have believed this for 2 decades. Like, this isn't new. AI goes back to the 1950s, the theory of what AI could do, but since the late 90s, the major platform companies have believed it was the future. And what happened in the last few years, the last 8 to 9 years in particular, what was theorized in academia is actually being realized and commercialized. And so there's this massive land grab for talent and for capabilities. So this is a quote that Sundar has actually said over and over again. This wasn't like a one-time thing. He says variations of this every time he's on stage. Then you have Satya. It's the defining technology of our times. Generate real business returns and drive digital transformation. Microsoft wants to turn every industry into an AI-first industry. So whether you at your organization are doing this or not, what you have to realize is the big platform companies are. They think it's the future, and they think the future is now. And as a result, what's possible for you now and in the very near future is going to be almost hard to fathom. So the PepsiCo was a fascinating conversation because they're at that forefront. They're looking out around the corner of the things like most of us aren't seeing every day. And so what's happening is, as these, like AWS, if you go to Amazon Web Services machine learning page, there's like 30 pre-trained machine learning models to do image recognition, speech recognition, recommendation systems based on the way Amazon does the recommendation systems on their website. Like, you can go get a pre-trained model to do something that 4 years ago you couldn't build for $1 million. And it's sitting there right now. You go get your data scientists and whoever, sit in a room, like, you can go apply this stuff like right now. And so what's happening is we have a lack of leadership in the marketing industry that understands this and can envision solutions to problems that they couldn't previously solve. And so there's an opportunity to build a next generation of marketing leaders who have this knowledge, who can actually not age band it. I'm not saying like the kids coming out of school. I don't care if you're the CMO and you've been doing this for 40 years. If you embrace change and if you look at ways to apply smarter technology, you can very quickly transform what your organization does. So I talk about this next-gen marketer concept. First and foremost, and actually, obviously, the theme of today is personalization. So you're able to create those experiences that consumers expect. So go back to that slide of all those apps. As a consumer, I hate inefficiency. Like, I'm expecting convenience and personalization. And if it's B2B software, I don't care. I run companies. Like, if I have to research a product at 10 o'clock at night, because that's the only moment I have, I don't want a chatbot that can't actually engage with me and understand what I'm asking for. I want to have that same level of convenience where I get answers right away. So the ability to build that creative possibilities, I'm going to show you a couple of things that to me are kind of mind-blowing, but then real business results, like turning this stuff into actionable numbers, KPIs that matter within your organization. So this is my kind of call to action, not just for you, but for the industry. Like, you can be a next-gen leader. Like, we don't have to wait around for this stuff. This isn't go back to school for 2 years and figure it out. So I always feel like it helps to take a step back and create a baseline of like, well, what exactly are we talking about? So this is by far, trust me, I have looked far and wide for definitions of AI that first made it make sense to me and then made it so I could explain it to other people. This is the best. So this comes from Demis Hassabis. How many people in the room know who Demis Hassabis is? That's shocking. Okay. My opinion is Demis will end up being probably one of the 3 most important people of our generation. So he built a company called DeepMind. It was acquired by Google in 2014 for about $700 million. If you ever saw AlphaGo on Netflix, where they built the world Go champion, Lee Sedol, that was Demis's team. They're basically trying to build general intelligence by teaching it to win at games. So within Google, they're doing all kinds of insane things, but Demis said it's the science of making machines smart. What he means by that is the software you use to do your job, the computers you use, everything you've grown up and been used to, a programmer wrote rules that told that software what it could do, and then you write rules that tells it what to do. So if you want to send an email marketing campaign, somebody coded how the email marketing software works, and then you say, I want to send to this list, here's the subject line to use, here's when to send it, you tell it everything. You're writing rules as a marketer what to do. This, the machine can actually learn on its own. It can get smarter. It can make you better at your job by taking data in, creating smarter outputs. So it's just a simple concept, but it's this idea of making machines smart. So we borrowed and kind of took inspiration from that and said, marketing AI is the science of making marketing smart. And at the end of the day, that's what we're trying to do as marketers. So I try not to get bogged down in a bunch of definitions, but I feel like this is a really important slide. AI is just this umbrella term, tools and technologies that make machines smart. The primary subset, and you hear this get confused all the time, it's like, is machine learning AI, is AI machine learning? One, it doesn't really matter to you. Like, this doesn't matter to do what you need to do. But machine learning is the primary subset of AI. It is the thing that enables prediction and personalization. You cannot have personalization at scale without machine learning, because it learns from the data and it enables you to better target messaging, better target audiences. All of those things become possible because the machine takes data in and it learns. It's a very literal definition. Machine learns. The subset of that we hear about is this idea of deep learning. And this is the stuff we were hearing about this morning with neurons in the brain. They're trying to teach the machine how to see, how to hear, how to understand, how to speak. That's made possible by deep learning. It's trying to imitate human capabilities. If you had a machine that wasn't smart, and you showed it this podium, and you showed it me and that poll, it has no idea the difference between those things. But if you teach a machine textures and colors and sizes, and now all of a sudden the machine's able to think and see the way a human would see. So there's three primary categories I tell people to think about when you're trying to understand applications of AI. The first is language. Rich mentioned this morning. There's a belief that language is fundamental to intelligence. So we want to give machines the ability to think and to act in a way humans can. They have to first understand and be able to generate language. So Gmail, if any of you use Gmail, it finishes a sentence for you. It's kind of cool. What it's doing is, you hear this word over and over again, predicting. It's predicting the next word the human would write. It learned that by reading every email all the humans wrote for years and years and years. So Google, for probably 8+ years now, has had a team of some of the smartest AI researchers in the world trying to figure out how to generate language. And so that's what you see in Smart Compose. If you use Google Docs, you may have recently seen summarization in the top left corner. What it's doing now is it's actually taking in all the things, it's reading everything in that doc and trying to abstract what is that document about. So it summarizes it in 20 words or less. This is content summarization. Like if I was running $1 billion fund right now to invest in this kind of technology and build it, content summarization would be like 1A. Think about all the places where we have all this information, we're trying to process thousands of words. It's like, what does it mean? Just like, give me the 200-word brief. AI can do that. And very soon, it's going to be in all these products you're using. It's going to do this stuff for you. But again, voice recognition, like the way Siri and Alexa know who's speaking, text to speech or speech to text. Like if you use Zoom and it transcribes, it's using Otter.ai to transcribe your voice into text. Like it's everywhere within what you're doing. The way I wrote the book was we took hundreds of thousands of words of audio, transcribed it into text, and then analyzed the text to start filling the book. So when you write a 60,000 word manuscript, if you start with 300,000 words of voice to text, it actually gives you a nice head start on a book. This one, again, I've been studying this space for 10 years. This was the holy shit moment for me. Not Imogen from Google, which just came out 2 weeks ago, but it's something called DALL-E 2. Anybody heard of DALL-E 2? Okay. Organization called OpenAI. Peter Thiel, Elon Musk, some billionaires got together and said, let's open resource AI research, best people in the world. They go get Sam Altman from Y Combinator to lead it, and they start working on language generation. So GPT-3 comes out of the OpenAI lab. That's the language model a lot of the language generation is built on today. April 6th, they released something called DALL-E 2, which you can give a text prompt, and it generates an original image, pixel level up. It's not taking stock photos and mashing them together. It's actually generating an image. My wife is an artist. My daughter is a want-to-be artist. And I saw this, and I went downstairs, and I sat down with my wife, and I said, okay, let's just listen to me for a moment. Like, I got to think this through. Like, creative wasn't supposed to be the domain of AI in the near future. Creative was supposed to be last. So I talk to people about repetitive, data-driven tasks. I talk about the way that AI can be applied today to, like, save us time and money, and it's great, and it frees us up to be more human. Shit, like, what if it comes for creative? What if illustrations are done by machines in the future? What if the children's book that my daughter wants to write can be illustrated by an AI? What if my blog post, I can just say, here's what the blog post is about, like, create an image for me. I never need stock photos again. Like, are we there? And I was asking myself this, like, have we gotten there without me realizing this was going to happen? The answer is no, but it's only because they won't release this because of the way it can be used by bad actors. So you can imagine, like, it can take anyone, like, just pick a name, it can create them in unfavorable images and situations. There's no stopping it. The same way you can build deepfakes and disinformation and misinformation. So the only reason we're not seeing much faster and larger adoption of large language models like GPT-3 and this kind of technology is because they haven't figured out yet how to stop it. Because, and if you go to this page and you scroll down, Google very explicitly says, here are the reasons we're not releasing this. We don't know yet how to solve the problem of people using it in evil ways. It's not that the barriers are there to the actual tech. So these are things like, again, the way your iPhone unlocks your face, the fact that for 6 years Facebook knew who was in the photos you uploaded, like all of that is the computer being able to see and understand things. The final area, and the most practical probably, is personalization. So prediction, it's, again, everything we do is predicting things, but the primary way it's used is personalization. Recommendation engines is another. Like if on your website today, if you're a B2B company, you wrote a rule that says, oh, if they downloaded this ebook, show them this ebook next. Or if they attended this webinar, do this pop-up. You're writing rules. You suck at it. We all suck at it. We're humans. Like you can't think about this at scale. You can't think about hundreds of thousands of people and like the why that Rich was talking about. Like you can't get into the why they're there and why they downloaded the thing they downloaded before. But AI opens the possibilities to do personalization at scale. So I've always found it's helpful to drill into this at a use case level because it starts to make it even more tangible. So you got language, vision, prediction. Underneath that are thousands of use cases where AI can or has been built. The thing to think about when you're trying to say, do I have a use case for AI? Is it data-driven or should it be data-driven? You have data that should be informing a decision, maybe you're not using it. Is there a repetitive process? I can say, here are the 7 steps I go through for 30 hours a month to do this thing. If you can define a repetitive process, there's a really good chance AI can be used. And are you making a prediction? Again, zoom out. I'm sending an email campaign. I'm predicting which segment to send it to. I'm predicting what time to send it. I'm predicting what subject line will get them to open, predicting what offer to get. It's all predictions. Everything we do as marketers is actually trying to predict outcomes and behaviors. We just don't think about it that way. So here's an example in advertising, audience targeting, budget allocation, creating one ad in one format, but you need it across 1,000 channels. You can have designers design 1,000 of them, or the AI can just do it. Crop the images, resize the fonts. It's available today. Celtra's actually, I think, a company that does that. Developing ad copy, insights into ad performance, and these are just some example vendors on the side that do this stuff. Content marketing is exploding because again, Microsoft has like $1 billion license with OpenAI for GPT-3, so there's hundreds of tools that have been built on top of it, but you can do things like analyzing existing content. We've published like 900 articles about AI. We use AI to analyze those 900 articles, tell us which ones to republish, and then tell us what questions to answer within that content to improve the probability that it'll rank higher in search engines. So we use AI to inform our content strategy. Localizing language, created in English, you need it in 5 other languages. Like these are all things that right now humans can do, but it's really time intensive to do it. And then email is a huge one. Like if you have an email newsletter with 50,000 subscribers, why do you think as a human you're capable of picking the 5 things that those people are going to want to read? What if they have been a subscriber for 3 years, have clicked on over 300 articles, and you could actually learn their interest areas, their whys, and the AI picked the articles to put in the newsletter every time because it's better at it than we are. And that's the hard part is, I wrote this article last month, said what is lost, what is gained, and when. As humans, we have to accept the fact that AI is getting really good at some things that we think we're uniquely good at. You have to understand when those things will be lost. When is the AI going to get so good that it doesn't make sense for me to do it anymore? But what does that open for me? So if my wife, the illustrator, accepts the fact that AI appears to be really good at generating illustrations, what does that mean to her now or a year from now or 2 years from now? And if you embrace the fact that AI is going to do this stuff, this isn't a question of if, it's just when, and you pivot first. You figure out the application for your brand or your career. So how do you get started? There's 2 ways I teach this, 2 quick frameworks. One is a problem-based model, which is kind of what PepsiCo was talking about earlier, and the other is a use case model. The problem-based model is you have a known pain point or problem you have to solve. This is a business problem. You can assign tie it to a business KPI, and you can assign a value to solving it. So in this case, your assumption is, my hypothesis is there is a smarter way to do the thing we're trying to do. So in this example of email, we've got a database that keeps growing, but our contact conversion rate just sucks. It's not getting any better. And the value is key here. If I could lift this 2 percentage points, I can generate $100,000. So I know what I'm willing to spend to solve the problem. And now I can analyze how am I currently solving it. And this is actually the framework we created to do this. It's not unlike a framework you might see out of McKinsey or Deloitte or whatever. It's problem solving. Develop hypothesis, key issues and drivers, how are we solving it today, what are the smarter ways to potentially solve it, and then you kind of diffuse that and you end up with, here's the plan. That one can take months. This one you could do this afternoon. So finding quick win pilot projects is the fastest way to start proving to yourself and your company that you can do this stuff. What you do here is you take the list of activities you do every day. I write emails, I pick up subject lines, I manage ad spend, I develop creative, whatever it is. And then you make the assumption that someone has built an AI tool to do that thing in some capacity. So we actually built this, I run this as a workshop where you kind of work with companies and build these out. But the concept here is, think about these are categories of marketing: direct marketing, events, premium content, PR, whatever it may be. Then the tactical things that you do, or your team does, how often do you do them? How many hours a month do you spend on it? What tech are you using? How much does the tech cost? Then what you can do is at a 1 to 5 scale. 5 is it would transform my life if AI could do this for me. I don't want to do it anyway. I hate it. I hate building pivot tables in Excel or Google Sheets. So you assign these values, and then you might need help with the second one, but the ability to intelligently automate it. So what I do here is I build my list. Takes me a couple minutes to think about all the things I do, 80% of the things I do. All my 4s and 5s sort in descending order. Then I go through and say, okay, is there a tool to do this? And just go to Google or Microsoft, search AI for subject line writing, AI for whatever, and go test some tech. So you've got language vision prediction, you've got a bunch of use cases, there's thousands more. Now you want to go talk to these AI companies. Most of them are BS. Like, they don't actually have real AI. They're not, it's just vaporware. It's not their fault. Well, it's sort of their fault. What happens is the marketers and salespeople who are supposed to sell this stuff have no clue what they're selling. Then you have the brand marketers who are supposed to write the messaging that explains the product that the engineers explained to them, and they didn't understand the engineers. And so now we have this total disconnect, or they're just lying. Like, it's usually the brand marketers are misinformed or don't understand it, though. I give them the benefit of the doubt. The simplest way to think about AI is it is just smarter technology. You already buy marketing technology. You just need to buy smarter technology from companies who are building real things that make you better at your job. So this is the infamous Scott Brinker MarTech landscape. There's like 9,000 logos. Those are all little dots or logos if you have never seen it before. Most of this stuff is elementary and will be obsoleted in the next 3 to 5 years. Many of these companies lack vision at the CEO level, so they don't even know what AI is. I was at a conference in 2019 with a CEO from a major MarTech platform company touting personalization is the future of the industry, then trashed AI in the next breath. And I went up to him afterwards at the bar and I said, you do realize that what you just prescribed doesn't actually happen without AI. Do you know what AI is? And we had to sit there and have a conversation and explain why he was actually really wrong in front of 5,000 people. But AI can change all of this because it teaches us, it gives us the ability to look at problems differently. You can achieve more, you can think differently, you can grow faster. So to do that, though, you just need this like real base understanding of what this smarter technology is designed to do. But the trick is, it's not all equal. So you could see AI, machine learning, natural language processing, you see all these terms. Say, okay, I want to go get a content intelligence tool that helps me analyze all my content I created and figure out what to write, like the use case we use. Go search content intelligence companies, you're going to find like 50 of them. They're all going to claim machine learning, they're all going to claim natural language processing, but that doesn't mean it's actually going to do what you need it to do, which is make you better at your job. So I was always drawn to the autonomous vehicle industry has this industry standard scale. There's a 0 to 5, and it's levels of autonomy. So if you've ever actually been in a Tesla on autopilot on the freeway where it appears to be driving itself, that is level 2 out of 5. Tesla isn't even close to autonomous vehicles. Level 5 is there's no steering wheel. So we're not there, except within specific pre-trained tracks, like on Vegas Strip maybe. Like it could go from A to B in a straight line. So I always wanted to create something similar for the marketing industry. So this is kind of what we developed. The key here is the only reason you buy AI is to make you more efficient at your job or to give you the increased probability of achieving your outcomes. So you're not buying AI to buy AI. You don't need AI, you need smarter technology. So go back to the Smart Compose. This is brilliant. Again, smartest minds in the world was building this stuff, and they're just getting started with language generation. However, how much time do you really save using this tech? Like if they said, okay, Smart Compose is now a paid feature, what am I willing to pay? I still have to choose who I'm sending it to. I still write the subject line. I try and write a better sentence than the machine did because it's really good at it, and I don't want to admit as a writer that it wrote the sentence better than I would have. So I spend more time analyzing what the machine wrote than I do letting it write for me. It's not actually that efficient. Amazing tech that I wouldn't probably buy. So the question becomes when you buy an AI software, what is the machine going to do what is the marketer going to do? Over time, how is this going to transform what I do? So we created kind of this simple visual of all marketer on the left side to all machine on the right. Full autonomy, no human oversight, doesn't need to provide any inputs to the machine to learn. I just say, I want X, I want 500 leads next quarter. Do your thing, machine. Whatever it is you do, go do the thing. That is kind of the dream. I don't see that anywhere in the future in any application I've ever looked at. Probably, I'm just ballparking, 90% of the software you use is zero. Like they're just the 9,000 logos, they're not doing anything. Level 1 is probably 9 of the other 10%, and then the, like 1% is probably level 2. So what happens is most AI-powered you do talk to, they're getting you to level 1 or 2. That is not a bad thing, by the way. That's just the reality of where it is. Level 3, I could listen to an argument from a vendor that they can get it to level 3 after a significant amount of human training and onboarding from the brand team. These AI need to learn, not just from data, but from humans. And so you're going to invest a ton of time to get to level 3. Level 4 does not exist. It doesn't exist in autonomous vehicles. It does not exist in AI software. If a vendor says full autonomy, they are lying or misinformed about what is possible with their own tech. So this becomes the key thing. How is it going to reduce costs? How is it going to increase revenue? How does it learn and improve over time? Conversational AI is a really good example here. I can get a true conversational agent. God, I had a horrible experience with Chipotle's. The Ask Pepper is, if anybody from Chipotle's in the room, please talk to me. Like, it's horrible. They're using Live Person, which is legit conversational technology, and it couldn't even figure out how to cancel an order. But anyway, conversational AI, it can learn from the data on your site, and then it can learn what are good responses. So if you turn a conversational agent loose on your site, and someone asks it a question, and then 3 questions later they haven't gotten an answer, a human needs to be watching that and telling the machine that wasn't good. Like, you didn't give it the right answer. Here's what it should have said. And the machine learns from it. Again, machine learning. It learns what the right response was. The way Tesla dominates the autonomous driving industry, why they have a clear-cut advantage to be the ones to achieve it. They have over 11 billion miles of training data. Teslas have 8 exterior cameras and 1 interior, which I just learned 2 months ago. I didn't even know it had an interior camera. 8 exterior cameras that monitor everything you do as a driver. The breakthrough in autonomous vehicles was, what would a good human driver do? Throw all the neural nets out the window, what would a good human driver do? So it learns from actual driving data from good human drivers what to do in different situations. That's what needs to happen with marketing software. It needs to learn from good humans. How do you take your best editor, your best paid media person, your best competitive intelligence person? How do I replicate what they're capable of doing across my team? But again, going back to the level 1 and level 2, that's enough. Like, you can do that, and it can make massive improvements on your company. One of the first things we did was Google Analytics reports. We trained the machine to write the reports that our team was spending 5 to 7 hours per client when I was running my agency. 5 to 7 hours per client per month to analyze what had happened on their site and write the story. The machine writes it at the click of a button now. So that was transformational, and it honestly wasn't even AI. It was pre-trained templates. We taught the machine how to write the template, basically. And then from this, it's just kind of like, where do you go next? The future is marketer machine. The future is happening already for the people who go seek the smarter technology. And so that's why I always encourage people to just take the next step. Like, go watch a webinar, go listen to a podcast, go read a book, go do something. You don't have to go back to school and get a graduate degree in this stuff. It doesn't exist, so you can't. But just go do the next thing. Don't wait for all the marketing software to be like all the consumer software, where it's just everywhere, because you've lost your competitive edge. Right now, people aren't seeking this stuff out. They don't know how to ask for it. They don't know how to look for it. They don't know how to question the vendors. But you can go look for this stuff now, and whether you're the intern or the CMO, you can actually be the one that drives the change within the organization, because most people fear this stuff. It's abstract, it's overwhelming, they think it's sci-fi, but that's not actually what it is. So my challenge to people is, you can become that next-gen leader. Thank you. I don't know if we have, did you want to do any questions, or we're good? Rolling. Okay, John's got a game for you all. Thank you.